Welcome back in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365. Joined now by Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. Jeff Kerr looking like he's got a slightly new setup. Jeff, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Monday?
Slightly new, Xander. We're still working on things. A closet collapsing last week, and all my clothes piled behind me.
Oh, no. I put some pressure on you last week, Jeff. I'm like, where's the new studio? And you got the work on it.
The new studio is still in progress. It might be delayed another week.
All right,
well, I thought you were still. I thought you're still locked in. Is that Lincoln Financial Field behind you?
Yeah, I'm still locked where John McMullen sits.
Yeah, I thought you were still locked in there because they locked us in. By the way, Jeff, you left early. They locked us in.
They locked you. How long were you there on Saturday?
I don't remember, but it 7 after 7, and when we came out, it was locked. It was locked. Eagles, talk to people at Lincoln Financial Field. They want to bail out so quickly, the security guards, and they lock us in. It's absurd.
For a 1 o'clock game, yeah. Like, I understand that was like even a Thursday night game. It's like 1, 2 o'clock. I get it, but 7 o'clock, like you said, 7 o'clock. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's a little bit of inside baseball. My complaint of the day. Talking about the 53 before you came on. So what were your most difficult spots those last couple spots that you said, I don't know which way Howie Roseman is going to go?
Safety was my biggest one. To me, it's James Bradbury. When's the game of chicken ending if it's ever going to end? I predicted it's going to end. I think they got bait. I think Tristan McCollum played well enough to deserve a spot on this roster, but roster gymnastics tell me that probably isn't going to happen.
Yeah, I also think Caden Stearns complicates that.
Yeah.
From the injury, he's not ready to play. So I think the Eagles are comfortable cutting him, but that's not the point. I think he might be the guy that they're looking at to be a potential meaningful piece of the safety picture down the road more than Tristan McCullum. So I think that buys Howie some time to kick the can even further down the road with James Bradbury if he wants to. Or I could be overthinking it to a ludicrous degree. Jeff, your thoughts?
Well, Howie overthinks things to a ludicrous degree, but I agree. Like, you can put them on and put them on short-term IR, right? Is that still a thing? They still do that?
Well, you can put 2 guys on IR before the 53, but I don't think they're going to waste that on Caden Stearns because they don't have to.
You can easily cut them. So maybe that's the plan. You know what, John? Another one that was tough for me too, defensive tackle, because I don't think anybody's wrong if they pick Marlon Tuipulotu, PJ Musfer, Thomas Booker. I think of the 3, though, Thomas Booker's been the best one.
I agree, and I didn't put him. I think he has been the best one from a performance standpoint, but I went with Marlon because you already have Morrow. So you have a guy to play the 4-eye, the 3 technique, and that's more of what Thomas Booker does versus they don't have anybody to back up Jordan Davis. So that's where I think Marlon Tuipulotu and PJ Mustipher have a advantage because they can play nose tackle, they can play shade technique, and I don't know if Thomas can. So that's sort of like a fit thing for me that I went with Marlon Tuipulotu. But that's difficult as well. Also difficult, the offensive line. Now, they might put Tyler Steen on injured reserve and say, all right, go get healthy, miss 4 games, and then you'll be back. So that can complicate things. Your thoughts on Nick Gates? I got him on the roster.
You know what, John? I wanted to do it. I wanted to put Nick Gates on. I didn't do it. And I did see your 53, and I said, I should have done it. I should have just said to myself, bit the bullet. I took Brett Toth over Nick Gates.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Brett's versatile. He can play every position on the offensive line. I had a difficult time with Dylan McMahon too, because I think you can get him on the practice squad.
Well, yeah, I cut him. That was one of the reasons why I did that. I'm like, well, he'll go in the practice squad, and we all know how he doesn't like to part way. But again, this is what the 191st pick in the draft, 190th pick in the draft. It's
191. Kelsey was what? 192. What was Kelsey?
yeah. I think Kelsey was 192. So either way, I agree. I think you could stash McMahon.
So he's one slot better than Jason Kelsey.
Yeah, and then
so you think they go practice squad with McMahon?
Yeah,
Jeff.
yeah. I think he'll end up on the practice squad. John,
Okay.
this is what I wanted to ask you. Did you keep Darian Kennard?
No.
I didn't hear.
I got him on the practice squad. And I went 10 deep on the offensive line because I only kept 2 tight ends. Because that E.J. Jenkins play where they had an easy first down late in the game, and he just ball popped up off him, interception for the Vikings. I don't think he's ready. So that's where I think the roster gymnastics come in. Obviously, they're going to have more than 2 tight ends, but I think to start, I think it's only going to be Dallas and Grant, and then they'll figure out who the third tight end is going to be. Might even bring Jack Stoll back from
if he gets cut.
Here.
And I was thinking about that myself. I actually kept DJ Jenkins because I'm like, well, maybe I was too conventional. You got to have 3 tight ends, but also the regular season doesn't start for another 10 days.
It's the initial 53, not the final 53.
Yeah, so that was where I came. So when they traded for Jahan Dotson, I said, okay, well, there's going to be 6 receivers. Who's the 6th going to be? I could not justify telling myself Anaya Smith belongs on this football team. I don't care what round he was picked in. And I didn't put him on there. I took Paris Campbell.
Whoa, yeah, I put Anais on there for the exact reason. Like if Jahan Dotson, that acquisition had more of an impact on a negative impact on Paris Campbell and John Ross than it did on Johnny Wilson and Anaya Smith. I think it helped them. Because now they don't have to play, and now you can feel comfortable putting them on the back end of the roster as developmental prospects.
Yeah, and again, this is where I went my coach instincts instead of my Howie instincts, and I agree. When everybody put Anaya Smith on there, and I was reading everybody else's, I'm like, you know what? I should have done it. It makes sense, but if I went on pure performance, I saw more in a week.
Oh yeah, well, a pure performance, Anaya should be cut. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, Dotson changes that though, because they're no longer going off pure performance with this because they're going to play less, like Johnny Mack said.
Well, yeah, Paris Campbell's barely going to play. I mean, unless you want him to be the kick returner, which I don't think is going to be the case.
And by the way, I got him on the practice squad. Nobody's going to sign Paris Campbell.
No, he's a vested veteran. Yeah. John, did you keep Warren Burks?
No,
I didn't.
I wanted to, but I can't keep 6 linebackers, and I can't cut Ben.
Yep.
So
Warren did look solid in that last preseason game. Now he was playing versus 3s nonetheless.
But that's
still, I thought he looked. Yeah,
that's what you want when you're playing against whatever you want to call them, but the backups. Let's be kind. And you're an NFL player like Warren Burks, a legit NFL player. You want him to just say, "All right, this guy doesn't belong on the field," and he did. That's what he looked like. He was like, all right, Warren Burks shouldn't be in this mess. So I thought he played very well, and I'd like to keep him, but I can't cut Ben Van Sumeren after this summer.
You know what, John? The skeptic in me, they're never going to cut the guy because he's a first-round pick. What the heck, Nolan Smith? What was that performance on Saturday?
No. Yeah. Well, it's not a good sign, even though they tried to spin it, but they're not going to cut him. I mean,
he's in the crosshairs on the fan base.
But Julian Okora is a better player than him right now. If I'm going on based on,
you can make that argument. You can make the argument because I kept 6. I kept Patrick Johnson.
I kept Patrick Johnson too.
You could argue that Patrick Johnson is their 4th best edge rusher, ahead of Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt for the immediate future. Obviously, they have larger upsides. But as for the guy who is ready to play against Green Bay, you can make a strong argument that that's Patrick Johnson over both of those guys.
John, so they can keep 4 vested veterans. So we basically
6, they
Oh
expanded.
yeah, that's right. It's 6 now. Yeah,
Yeah.
for some reason I forgot that. So we kind of already named the guys we're going to keep. Paris.
Oren Burks is
Yeah,
a guy.
Oren Burks. Yeah.
I think Oren Burks will probably wait and see if he can get a job elsewhere if they cut him. And that might be a situation where I have to wait a little while, and if nobody else wants him, they'll bring him back.
I'm 99% confident Julian will be a vested veteran.
Okwara, yeah,
Yeah.
he'll be on there. I agree. Yeah, so those are some of the any surprises on the Jeff Kerr 53 that you didn't see a lot of the other guys going with. You got to shoot your shot to win this
Yeah,
thing.
I mean Thomas Booker's shooting my shot. Tristan McCollum shooting my shot. So if I only get 45, 46 right, it's because of those two. But if I get 50 right, it's because of those two.
Yeah, I like them too, Jeff. There were 2 that I agree with. I thought Thomas Booker was great, and I thought Tristan McCollum was great. I said that to Johnny Mack. I actually think if they do practice squad him, I think he's going to get picked up. But we'll see what ends up happening there.
John, who did you keep at corner?
I kept Ricks over Job as number 6, and that I pained over that because Job is, Ricks isn't going to play as a 6 corner. Job would be really meaningful as one of your best special teams player every week. But I think they can get him through waivers, and I think they know it. And they're concerned.
You know what? I felt the same way, but I kept Job just because I think you got to send a message sometimes. And I know this is, again, the coach speaking, but sometimes you got to reward some players who are really good at what they do. And no disrespect.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I might, but I got bitten by Eli Ricks last year because they wanted to keep him because of his coverage. Like Mekhi Gardner really outplayed him last year on a consistent day-to-day basis, better special teams player. And they kept Ricks because, I'm not going to say no teams, very few teams are going to pick up a guy just for special teams. The Eagles did it once with Rudy Ford.
And Rudy Ford's still doing it at a high level in this league.
Yeah, I don't know if he signed with anybody, but he's a great special teams player, and he has.
I think he was with Carolina. I could be wrong though.
Well, he was with Green Bay, and he did a really good. He was starting for a while. They had a bunch of issues, but he was one of the best. He's one of the best gunners I've ever seen. Rudy Ford, by the way, tangent. But they value coverage guys, and Ricks has natural coverage skills. And that's more likely to whet teams' appetite than just the special teams guy. So that's how I looked at that. It was like
that's what I worried about Tristan McCollum. I have a feeling he would be one of those guys that would get claimed if he hit the waiver wire.
Well, I think a lot of people. Tristan played the whole game on what day? Saturday. Thank you. 73 snaps, 100%, along with Andre Sam, 73 snaps, 100%. And a lot of people are like, for some reason, that's a good sign. That's not a good sign.
That's not a good sign.
That's not a good sign at all. It's the opposite when you're playing that. Minnesota played Henry Bird 100% of the snaps. He ain't making that team. Lewis Seen, the former first-round pick, has been a disaster. He ain't making that team. They're trying to trade him.
No one's going to want him.
No. So that 100%, that's not necessarily a good thing. And, people are up in arms. Nolan played 19 snaps, played 26%.
He shouldn't have even been playing in that game.
Well, that I agree with. That
There's a question on Nolan. This is interesting. Could the Saturday showcase for Nolan mean they're shopping him around? Is that possible?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think it's an effort to light a fire under his ass is what it is. That's Big saying, "Hey, dude, let's come on, pick it up." That's what I think that is.
Yeah.
And he got it because he had to sit there and answer all the questions like, why are you playing? Nobody else played.
Yeah.
The only other rotational player, the only other meaningful player that played on both sides, by the way, Minnesota didn't play anybody on both sides, was Cooper DeJean, but that was understandable because of the injury.
That was more than fair because he hasn't played. He wanted to get those reps in, and he looked like he needed to play pretty much every snap in that game at times. And I'm glad he did because I thought he got better as the game went on. But early on, I was a little concerned, like he's still not there yet.
No, and he's going against Henry Bird and guys like that, and still there's not a ton of. He had mentioned he was really close to getting an arm at some point, I guess, a Jaron Hall. But yeah, I mean, it hasn't gone great for Nolan Smith. I think they're trying to light a fire under him, but no, I don't think they're looking to trade him just yet. Nor should they be, by the way.
No, I don't think they should be, but I do. It is weird how much.
I mean, Nolan Smith could come in this year and end up with 7 or 8 sacks, and we're going to be laughing at ourselves in January. But
yeah, that would be best case scenario, Jeff. So hopefully he does. I would love him to prove me wrong on it, but he's in the crosshairs right now. He hasn't done much, and he was a first round draft. It's not like he was a third. He was a first rounder.
I feel like one of our John and I's conversations after camp practices every day was, "Oh boy, look how great Nolan Smith looked against Fred Johnson."
Yeah, he did look great against Fred.
But against Lane Johnson, not so much.
Nobody looks good. Bryce Huff doesn't look good against Lane. Nobody looked. Hassan Reddick didn't look good against Lane.
Bryce Huff doesn't look good against an undrafted free agent they just brought back 2 weeks
Well,
ago.
yeah, Gottlieb Aije. Yeah, kind of shut Bryce Huff down in one-on-ones, but
Morrow doesn't look great in one-on-ones either. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden the 11-on-11 start and the guy's a wrecking ball.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, people get too caught up in one-on-ones. Certainly, Stoutland hates them, by the way. Just he doesn't hate them for preparation standpoint. He hates them from how much importance everybody reports it as. He doesn't like it. But
we got a good question from a viewer. I want to ask both of you. It's a super chat. I missed it, John, in the first segment, but it is a good question. Speaking about like rookies and stuff. Big Fish Little Boat, thanks for the super chat, man. He says, at what point is a roster spot more important than draft position, i.e. diminishing return? It's interesting when you talk about, rookies and getting them on the roster. I'll ask both of you guys that question. What's your guys' response to Big Fish Little Boat? John, go ahead. You can go first.
First round pick, I mean, a while. That's why, that's the concern from the Jahan Dotson standpoint. We saw another one this weekend with Lewisine I just talked about. That guy's been a disaster. This is year 3. They still haven't cut him. They're trying to trade him. We'll see if they cut him. So it takes a while for a first round pick.
What about like a guy like Anias, though?
Anias not as long. I mean, he was so bad through the spring and the early part of summer. If that continued, I think they would have cut him because it was so bad.
Yeah. He at least showed some progress. You know, you never saw that with John Hightower a couple of years ago.
And they kept John Hightower.
Yeah, and they kept John Hightower. That's what's crazy about it. And, John, I always look at this as a perfect example of, with the diminishing return. You mentioned Lewisine. How about Jalen Reagor? And I know they cut him, but, anybody could have told you Quez Watkins outperformed Jalen Reagor the 2 years they were together.
Oh, yeah.
And one was drafted in the 6th. If you would put those two together and say one's a first-round pick and one's a 6th-round pick, I don't think you would have guessed Reagor was the first.
But well, to the point, I mean, everybody gives a long rope to their first-round picks. It's just a matter of how long. And the Eagles gave a long rope to Jalen Reagor.
Until someone wanted them.
And now, as you get down to day 3, it's changed. And 10 years ago, it was not a big deal. Teams used to cut 6th, 7th round picks all the time, even 5th rounders all the time. Over the last 5 years, I'd say, Jeff, people hate cutting draft picks. They hate it.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like You remember when the Eagles drafted Jeremy Bloom, John? This was like 20
Yeah.
years ago.
Oh, yeah. He
But,
was
like,
back. Jeremy Bloom was there on Saturday. He was
yeah,
one of the people they
one of the
introduced
alumni
at
guys, an
Happy.
hour and a half, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, how long was he on the team? I don't even think he was. I don't even think he played the game.
Yeah, he was an Olympian, so that was the big deal. But yeah, I mean that was an era where you teams, as I said, would cut day 3 guys all the time. Not so much anymore. Teams do not want to cut their draft picks. Howie's not the only one. It makes sense because they don't lose their job. In theory, they don't want to lose their job. In theory, Howie has a longer rope to do that kind of stuff. But he still doesn't like to cut his draft picks right away.
Crazy, because you would think no one's going to fire a GM over a 5th round pick that just didn't work out.
No, not well. I'm not going to say nobody, because they're not going to cut anybody because of a 5th round pick not working out. But all of a sudden it starts to develop. Yeah. We have no depth and we can't do this. But if you look at it over the past couple years, for instance, all right. So go back to last year. Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Tyler Steen, Sidney Brown, Kaylee Ringo, Tanner McKee, Moro Ojomo. Every single one of them made the team.
Yeah. By the way, McKee and Ojomo look like really good day 3 picks for them.
Yeah, and they all, in that case, they all deserved it. There's certain cases, 2022, Jordan Davis, they didn't have a lot of picks, so even more likely. Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, Nakobe Dean, Kyron Johnson, Grant Calcaterra. Kyron still kicking around the league. Did he deserve to make the team? You got to go back to 2021. They cut Jacoby Stevens, 6th round pick, brought him back to the practice squad, gave him plenty of opportunities. So, it's rare. Then 2020, Casey Toohill was the 7th round pick,
who ended up being pretty solid.
Yeah, he was with Washington for a while, so they keep everybody. Prince Tega Wanago, I think they brought him back to the practice squad.
Yeah, then he went to Kansas City.
And he's still in the league, right?
Yeah, he's still on Kansas City, but obviously he's not in the plans at left tackle. They got things. I can never pronounce his last name. So Samaria or something. He might be the
2019 was the Clayton Thorson year.
That's the word. You know what? Will Grier is still a way better quarterback than Clayton Thorson.
Well, that's fighting words. 2018 was a great draft. They kept everybody. So it's been a while. They keep their draft picks.
Which is what upsets me personally, because if I'm an executive in the front office and I see you took a shot on a Tristan McCullum or a Thomas Booker, Darian Kennard, Julian Okora, and these guys are performing, I'm praising my staff saying, hey, kudos. You guys found these players. Our coaching staff, you developed these players. I'm watching Anaya Smith, and I'm like, I don't want to waste any more time with this guy. Even though he had a better week, I get it, but
that's harsh.
But are you really going to cut someone who deserves it? Like, this is what I hate sometimes about the status of the NFL. It's so much more vital to be drafted than undrafted, because I feel like undrafted guys really don't get their fair share.
Oh, that happens all the time.
Well, he was undrafted. Well, there were some great.
They're still saying about T.J. Edwards, about Reed Blankenship right now.
Yeah.
Well, he's undrafted. So get me Justin Simmons. Get me Eddie Jackson. You really want Eddie Jackson over Reed Blankenship?
Yeah.
Now you can make an argument with Justin Simmons, but I mean, they want anybody but Reed Blankenship. Why? Because he was undrafted. Yeah, but he played really well last year on a crappy defense. So maybe the NFL got it wrong. They certainly got it wrong with TJ Edwards. I tell it all the time. I covered John Randall when the draft was 12 rounds, Jeff.
And he still didn't get picked.
He's in the Hall of Fame. They miss. They occasionally miss. By the way, he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, not some rinky-dink team Hall of Fame.
Does LaShawn McCoy belong in the Rinky Dink Team Hall of Fame, John McMullen?
Yes, he does. He does. He does. The Rinky Dink Hall of Fame more portrays the Phillies, where I think.
Yeah, you and I can go back and forth.
Yeah,
on that
Steve Jeltz is going in next week, I think. That's my
You want to mention a Steve Jeltz story? I'll go off on tangent here. At the Reading Phillies a couple months ago, Steve Jeltz was there, and I'm talking to him.
Good guy, by the way.
Oh yeah, and like people in the organization knew who he was, but like there's a bunch of interns and in there. They're asking me who that was. He looks like a baseball player, and I say he wasn't a baseball player. His name was Steve Jeltz. Who?
Yeah.
I was like, look him up or look on the back of your baseball card. You'll be like, wait, he was a baseball player.
Oh, by the way, breaking news: the Chiefs are expected to bring back Juju Smith-Schuster. So I say that only for the reason that thank you, because now there won't be the Eagles to sign Juju.
Oh, I thought that ended once they traded for Jahan Dotson.
I would, probably did.
Which, by the way, had a lot to do with Saquon.
Yeah, well, come on, Penn State pom-poms, come on.
I'm just saying, there's a connection there. It
definitely
had the seal of approval.
You're all thick as thieves. We know that.
Wait, John, we didn't leave with that, and we probably should have getting Jeff on. We've been so focused on the 53 today. Another Penn State boy here in Philly, Jeff Kerr. Jahan.
There are certain Eagles that joke about that. We were joking about that Saturday in the locker room. Ask Ed Kratz.
I'm sure you guys were the Penn State boys. You guys all love
I said,
what do you think of the Dotson trade, though, Jeff?
I love it personally. I think look what I'm wearing here. But I didn't think it'd be a right fit in Washington. It seemed like he was falling out of the fit. I'm still concerned about how he played at the end of last year. He had 7 catches for 83 yards his final 5 games. That can't go unnoticed. But I thought they overpaid.
Let me just add also from Washington's perspective, new GM who didn't draft him, new coach who didn't draft him. So new offensive coordinator who doesn't like him a little bit. So when we go back to our previous super chat, when regimes change, that can affect players, even first round picks, pretty dramatically. Yeah. Because if there were no changes in Washington, I bet Jahan Dotson is still there. They give him the rope to play again. But Adam Peters doesn't give a crap that Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, he didn't draft Jahan Dotson.
Yeah. So that changes things.
Yeah, and that's how I thought he needed to change the scenery anyway, from what I was hearing. Not that he wanted out. He wanted to make it work there. But, change the scenery would have been best for his career. And now you get the opportunity to play with a guy you work out with, and A.J. Brown. You're familiar with Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley goes to bat for him pretty much any day of the week. I think for what his role was going to be here, I think it's a good fit. But I also think they overpaid, but I think they needed
Yes, that's what I was going to say. They overpaid for him.
Yeah, now, I thought they needed to.
They overpaid. Nobody else is giving up a 3rd round pick for Jahan Dotson.
Do you think it was they looked at it and were like, okay, we have Paris Campbell, John Ross, and Nia Smith. And Johnny Wilson. We got to do something.
But I think there's a positive to it in that it's a clear indication that Howie's like, all right, we're close, so I'm going to go for it. Because nobody's giving him a 3rd round pick. So for all the people that, and I'm one of them, that's Howie's a great GM, but he overpaid for.
By the way, John, I got pretty upset on Saturday when basically everybody was blowing up the Washington quote Jahan Dotson made about about the trade and all that stuff. And, of course, everybody takes that one line and like, first off, he's an NFL player. He's going to be motivated against the team that traded him. So I don't know what the big deal was with that. And 2, he's a guy who speaks from the heart. Like, I don't think it was a shot at Washington at all. He goes, I even forget the exact word he said. It was something about like, I'll remember that when we played Washington or something. I forget what it was, but that was the one everybody blew up.
Well, they're always going to blow up, It's a ballsy move by Adam Peters.
It is. You trade
the last thing you want is for Jahan Dotson to beat you in the 4th quarter And you traded him to the Eagles. So,
Don't you remember when the Eagles traded McNabb to Washington and McNabb beat him the first time? He kind of let the organization have it. Say, hey, I mean, obviously the Eagles were right, but
yeah, the Eagles were right on that one.
yeah, but
But to that point, different. Donovan obviously end of his career, but
Donovan was 33, 34 then.
yeah,
He was up there.
and the Eagles kind of knew he was done from a standpoint of being a difference maker. Jahan's very young, but it is notable. You got to be realistic. Adam Peters seems to have no concern trading him in the division. So at least you got to mark that down, asterisk, and say, well, you try to look at it from the other perspective. At least I try to do it.
Isn't Adam Peters the guy who just doesn't want to deal with Howie Roseman? Wasn't that a thing during the draft?
No, that was they traded. Well, all he does is deal with Howie. But
Yeah.
what went viral is when they traded up. They traded up with Washington to get Cooper DeJean at 40th, and that was the call that the Commanders put out there because Howie was trying to sneak in a better late round pick. Adam Peters. What did he say? He called him. You come on. I forget exactly. I'll look
it was something along those lines.
Yeah.
It's one of those like you smirk like, all right.
Yeah. Howie's pretty exhausting. Well, that's the joke around the league. You can call the Eagles and ask for anybody, and Howie say, "Give me a second round pick, second round, and everybody kind of rolls their eyes.
Hey, you know what? You got to shoot your shot, right, John?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, do you think Howie's calling the Rams for a certain linebacker over there?
No,
I don't think
think he's better. I think he's better at linebacker than we all thought. Now, that's like a depth situation versus a starter situation.
That's how I feel. But I feel.
What do you do if you trade for Ernest Jones? Like, who are you getting rid of?
Well, exactly. What are you getting rid of?
Yeah, because you got to get rid of Devin White or Nakobe Dean.
And did they deserve to be getting rid of? Right? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't even think that's in a cut. But by the way, can everyone stop saying Boston Scott and Greg Ward? Hey, Greg Ward's not coming back. Stop it. Stop.
And Boston Scott, I love Boston Scott. He probably shouldn't have been on the team last year.
I mean, like, if there are a bunch of injuries, I shouldn't even say with Greg, and they're familiar with them. They might bring him into the practice squad, but not relevancy. Not 53-man roster spots, but man, people see a name they recognize. I don't know about you, but I got like 20 Twitter replies. Bring Boston Scott back. Bring Greg Ward back.
For what? Like where? Where are they going?
Exactly.
Don't you want to be a better football team?
You would think that would be the goal. And now you have Will Shipley at running back. Yeah, well, bunch of young receivers, but yeah, Greg Ward's one of those guys. The Eagles were looking to replace him every moment he was here, and God bless him, he did a nice job when he was forced to play at times. But yeah, you
know what? When Greg Ward was let go, I follow a lot of like the Houston University of Houston fan accounts because they all like to hear Greg Ward stuff, and I'd love to.
He was a great quarterback.
Yeah, well, you know what they said. You know what? That guy had one hell of a NFL career for as long as he lasted.
Yeah,
I'm like that. That's awesome. Like just seeing the community just think like that about a player. It's like,
and that part of it's true. Still hanging on. So
it's been what, like 8 years now?
Yeah, for him to last as long as he has, tremendous NFL career. But yeah, that's not a guy you're looking to bring back at this stage.
And to be honest, John, with the Ernest Jones stuff, do you really want to take snaps away from Trotter and Ben Van Zoomer right now? I don't, because I think they've developed.
Well, I think that's a good player. Like,
Oh, yeah, he is.
I don't know what's going on. I have to look into it.
He said he never asked for a trade.
But he had a good year last year. Like in theory, he would be their best linebacker if he came in.
Come on, John. That's like saying, if you would bring in Joe Buck, he'd be the best broadcaster.
Well, that's true, but well, it's interesting to me because I want to throw this at you, and we'll end it there. By the way, Jeff's got something to plug, so make sure you plug your new deal at Jeff Kerr CBS. Make sure you follow him on the X platform. So here's what I said, Jeff, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Obviously, we all talk about the Eagles' offense. So many difference makers, playmakers. Certainly, talent-wise, one of the best offenses. And defensively, we say, well, Vic's got to get them up to speed. If they're middle of the pack, everything's fine, which I agree with all those sentiments. But I say this, I think they have more depth on defense than they have on offense. Agree or disagree?
No, I agree with you. Look at the secondary, for example. Like, I know people are concerned about the safety, but I actually think they got some depth at safety. I think they got legit depth there. We know at corner. I think we found out in camp. That was one of my questions in camp. Are the linebackers good enough? Well, if you're looking collective as a whole, yes, based on the depth. I'm worried about pass rusher though, John. That's the one position I think I'd be worried about depth-wise. But
hey, Patrick Johnson might be their fourth best. I think he's one of the more underrated players on the Eagles. Who knows? Somebody like that
he
might
makes
step
plays.
forward.
Their depth at running back, it's unless
Well, I
your
like their depth.
Gainwell has his year, John.
I like their depth at running back. I don't like their depth on the offensive line or at receiver. It's better now with Dotson. It got a lot better. Tight end.
It's still not great. Tight end, it's terrible.
Yeah. And quarterback, I think,
I think they're deep there.
People are way too high on Tanner McKee. Way too low on Kenny Pickett as well. If forced to play, but we'll see how that shakes out.
John, are you over the week that was with Tanner?
Well, Tanner was brutal in practice after the Patriots game, and it was brutal against the Vikings, really. So
I thought he played better than the box score indicated, but he wasn't great.
Yeah, well, nobody was great though, but that's the thing. You got to evaluate the rep before you evaluate the player. When you're getting second and third team reps,
you're getting second and third team results.
Exactly. And I think people don't realize if you're forced to play, and this is where it comes in with Kenny Pickett. If he's forced to play, which you don't want him to play, don't get me wrong, but if you're forced to play, he's playing with A.J. Brown, Devontae, that offensive line, Dallas Goedert, Saquon. He's not playing with insert names. Aneem Dankwa, Gottlieb Aidze.
Nick Gates.
Yeah. Well, come on. Nick played well. By the way, here's PFF best offensive players. Number 1 against the Vikings, Max Sharping. Number 2, Nick Gates.
Why was Matt? How was Matt? Well, I should give Matt Sharping his flowers because I did not see any bad plays from Matt Sharping.
He got a great pass blocking grade, so he must have done well.
Well, every other week he's been terrible.
Paris Campbell got a good grade, mediocre grade. Griffin Abear. The worst players on the Philadelphia Eagles, Joseph Nada really had a bad game.
Yeah, he had the drop, right?
No, EJ had the drop.
I thought it was Nada where the pass went off his hand.
I think it was. I'll have to double check. I thought it was EJ, but it might have been not. It could have been either. EJ got a bad grade as well. But the worst were Darian Kennard, Joseph Nada, and Tanner McKee.
John, do you ever agree with this theory? And I've had people tell me this. A lot of people tell me this, and I'm always mixed on it. Do you think they've made their decision on certain players before that final preseason game?
Oh yeah, they know. They're 97% locked in, maybe 99.
You know who I always go to as the reference for that? Because I thought his last preseason game, if they wanted to give a guy a shot on a bad team his first year, I thought it was going to be Paul Turner, just based on what he
Great
did.
Paul Turner.
Yeah, based on what he did when they come, I said, well, it officially means nothing.
Remember Deshaun Hall?
Yes.
Now, he had 3 sacks, I think, in a final preseason game. And I said, if ever this proves, if he doesn't make this team, it proves preseason is meaningless. And he did make the team. So, but you have to do something really splashy.
You know what, John? The maddest I've ever gotten as a fan, as an analyst, whatever, on a player not making the Eagles. He's still in the league and he's still crushing it, Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, well, yeah, he did. Yeah, you're right.
He had one heck of a preseason in 15.
Yeah, undrafted too. And look at Raheem.
Undrafted again. The undrafted BS.
Yeah.
If Raheem Mostert was a 4th-round pick, he would have been on.
Yeah, very fast guy. A lot of injuries early in his career, though, and he persevered, so that played into it as well. All right, tell us about the new show, Jeff Kerr. New show for the local people. We have a lot of national listeners, but for those locally, let us in on the new show, the new Jeff Kerr show.
So if you guys are in between Pottstown and Reading, which is where I'm from, if you ever heard of Island Pizza, I'll be hosting a show every Tuesday night. We're going to be doing Q&A. We're going to be giving away door prizes. It's pretty much it's not a meet and greet, but it's more like a live chat. And we're going to do it for an hour. We can go longer. We can go an hour. We can go 2. But it's pretty much we talk about the Eagles during the week, and then we bring it to you guys. And we'll give you the microphone. You can ask any football related questions you want. We'll talk Eagles. We'll talk Phillies. Getting Johnny Mack as a guest one night. Going to bring some Eagles analysts here.
It's easier for me to get to Chicago than there, but I'll make that.
It is easier, but hey, you know what, John? I'm compensating you with pizza and wings, so I think that's a fair.
I will make it out as soon as I possibly can to show support for you. But that is a difficult trip.
I'm throwing the mic to you. I'm just really like, you're up. I told Ed and Martin that. You know what? You guys better be ready because we'll have some fun with it. That's what I want to do. I just want to have some fun. We're gonna talk. Just gonna talk. It's basically just talking football. Man of the people, John McMullen, man of the people. I'm gonna change your reputation. Change your reputation.
You got a lot of work there.
You know what? My buddy's like you, John. He's the biggest cynic in the world. I think you two would be great.
Well, I think it's natural. If you're a reporter and you're not a cynic or you're not asking questions or you're not looking at things, you're not doing your job. You're the whole thing is to be adversarial, to try to look at the other side, to try to get information. So, I mean,
and it's true because like I'll say this question a lot and I get teased a lot for it, but there's a certain baseball player in the Phillies. I'll ask if he's pressing, and I get the same response all the time. But when he's struggling, he knows he's getting the question.
Well, yeah. And somebody like Nolan Smith, I mean, Nolan handled it great. He knew
why are you playing?
Yeah. He knew what was coming, and he handled it well as best as possible. So, leave the pom-poms at the door. And some people value objectivity. Some people don't. But if you don't value it, I don't care.
I've learned that people respect objectivity more than people who don't.
Yeah. So that's where I am.
Yeah.
But Jeff's new show. So good. Yep, congratulations.
I'll put the flyer up it's coming up on Facebook today. I'll put it on Twitter, do all that stuff. But yeah, follow Island Pizza's Facebook page. They got great pizza. They got great wings. They got great beer. It's the only legit sports bar in the area. So we're expecting.
Well, they got the market cornered. That's a good business plan to get the market cornered. Where's it? Birdsboro? Is that where it is?
Birdsboro is the location. Again, it's funny because they use Douglasville and they use Birdsboro because it's kind of in between. But yeah, it's Birdsboro.
I got to check out flights from South Jersey to Birdsboro.
Yeah. Well, with the traffic.
Give me a helicopter. Give me a helicopter because I I got to get past the Schuylkill.
Yeah, what's the company that does the private health? Blade or something? It's
Yeah,
called.
Blade.
We got to get John a Blade.
Who does
Yeah.
the stretch? Who's the big stretch limo company now? Maybe I'll get McMullen that.
Well, you're still sitting there. It's better, but I mean,
You're not driving.
You might as well be a salmon trying to get upstream at the Schuylkill at any time after 2, 3 o'clock. So,
yeah, try driving the Eagles. By the way, cuts to bar are gonna suck driving up there.
Yeah,
down there, I should say. It's down for me. It's up for you, right? You're South
it's inside
Jersey.
baseball for all the people listening in Europe. They don't care.
All right, Jeff. Thanks for joining the show, man. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week. All right, brother. Congrats on your new show.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
All right, there's Jeff Kerr joining us on Birds 365. Good stuff.
Birdsboro. You know anything about Birdsboro?
John, I couldn't tell you a thing about Birdsboro. I don't know where that is. I know most, and I pride myself in knowing most areas around where I live. And I grew up right outside the city of Philadelphia, right in the suburbs. So I have no clue. I have never even
going
heard
up towards Reading.
Yeah, so it's a little out. It's a little out there. I'm close. I'm much closer to the city. I'm only a couple miles outside the city. So,
yeah, yeah. So anyway, but if you're local, you're in the area. Yeah, go have some fun with Jeff, who does a good job with us. Does a good job with CBS.
Sounds like he's going to be dragging you out there, John. So you can tell me.
Yeah,
you can tell me how Birdsboro is.
There's not going to be a lot of appearances for me. That is a difficult trip. So
yeah, that's
I got a lot of. I will do it once because Jeff does our show, but yeah, it'll be a one and done. Yeah, that's a difficult trip for me. Yeah.
Flexen says, I'll keep my ass in Philly. Love it, Flexen. Appreciate you being there, brother. John, one super chat I'm going to get to before we get to our break, and then we'll have Chris Franklin on the other side. And Martine drops $5. He says, chances they put John Ross on the practice squad like you were speculating with Campbell. I think they valued him more before the Dotson trade.
Yeah, I mean, they could. Again, you have 16. I have them keeping Paris Campbell over John Ross. I don't think you need both of them. I think you'd rather use that second. You're probably going to keep 2 receivers, but I think you'd rather keep. I was debating more Joseph Nada versus Jacob Harris, a younger player. I think you'd rather do it that way. But if Paris Campbell gets another offer somewhere else as a veteran player, they might go right back to John Ross. But I would think they would want Paris first. He's got a history with Nick Sirianni from Indy. Nick seems very comfortable. He was going to win that job if they didn't acquire Jahan Dotson. So and John got a concussion, still hasn't been back yet. So that factors into it as well. Same thing with Harris. Harris got a concussion on the first play of the Vikings game. So that affected me when I took Nada over him. Difficult sport, man. You get one injury.
Yep.
And bang, somebody else's, you got to make a decision.
Yep, no doubt about it. So good stuff there, Johnny Mac. We'll get to our commercial break. Looks like we have some viewers, Johnny Mac, doing some intel on Birdsboro. Daz checks in. He says, population 5,092 seems like a banging town. Daz, you must be like me. You like it nice and quiet, not a lot of people bothering you, your own space, your own views out the windows. Daz, you're like me, brother. I appreciate the comment and doing that research on Birdsboro. Let's get to our commercial break, everybody. I want to thank everybody for being here. Great crowd this morning, Johnny Mac. Hit that like button, everybody, for the final. The preseason is in the rear view, and we are now officially ready and preparing for, I guess you could say, that Sao Paulo, Brazil game. James Carver checks in. Says, what about my member super? I didn't see it come through, James. Oh, I got it. I do have it. Sorry, James. I missed this. So apparently, if you're a member, I think you can drop one paid for super chat a month. So James says, do you see them keeping Burks over BVS or use Burks veteran status to get him on the practice squad? John, you did answer this in the open, but just one quick time for James here.
Yeah, I think Ben has made the team. I did want to keep Oren, but again, we talk about injuries. He got hurt He was hurt before. He tried to practice on day 1 of training camp, and he was dealing with a knee, and he couldn't do it, and he shut himself down, and he was out for a lengthy period. Finally got back late in training camp, and Ben just made the football team, and I don't know how you keep 6 linebackers. So I think the goal is to, get Warren Burks back to the practice squad if you can. But he's a guy who might have some interest because of his resume elsewhere if somebody's got some linebacker issues. So I'm not going to say it's 100%, but I would be shocked if they cut Ben Van Sumeren after the summer he had, and that means that's bad news for Warren Burks because the other 4 are locked in. That's Devin White, Zach Bond, N'Kobe Dean, and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. So difficult numbers game right now for Warren Burks.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. Good response there. We'll get to our commercial break. I see our man Chris Franklin in the green room, so we will get to Chris after the break, giving me a fist pump. Good stuff, Chris. We'll get to you in about 3 minutes coming up after the break. Before I hit the break, I'm going to tell everybody about our newest sponsor for the football season, BetUS. Are you guys looking for a new sports book this football season? BetUS is the answer, and JAKIB Sports is proud to announce our new football partnership for the upcoming season. Right now, everybody, receive a 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits. So 125% sign-up bonus. Pretty good stuff there. If it's good for former Birds quarterback Michael Vick, it's definitely good for JAKIB Sports. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. And the link is also down in our description. So click that link down in the description. And take yourself to BetUS, get registered for the season. We'll be doing the Saquon Barkley bets all year long with BetUS. So stay tuned, everybody. Birds 365 will be right back with Chris Franklin.
Michael Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sportsbook and casino.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.